everybody. How's it going? Thanks so much for watching and supporting music through the Melody League sessions. I'm so excited about this next artist. Here is my interview with the legend, Zane Carney. Hey, what is up, everybody? You are watching the Melody League sessions interview. And right now, I want to introduce our next guest. I'm so excited to catch up with my friend, Zane Carney. Zane, how are you, man?
I'm great. How are you doing, Drew?
Good, man. I mean, I guess we're
I'm doing great. Everything's great.
we're social distancing and we're going through all this stuff, dude. And like we're both wearing our I was out earlier today mask. I can't go in Trader Joe's without it, so it's a thing. Zane, you can mute if you want. I'm gonna brag on you. Zane Carney is he's a savage, you guys. This guy is a savage. A savant savage. This guy
classy, bougie, ratchet. Exactly, isn't that the song?
Dude. He plays guitar, he writes music, he acts, he arranges, he teaches, he plays Mario Tennis, he does it all.
Ooh. And I will do your kid's birthday party. Hit me up at 444-4444. That's my phone number.
And he does birthday parties. Okay. Zane has been, we'll talk about how we met in a minute, but Zane's played for a lot of different artists. If you don't know him, you're going to get to know him a little bit on this interview. Killer Guitar Hero player. Like, I couldn't have more respect for a player. This guy can play blues, rock, jazz, pop, instrumental, arrange, write, sing like an angel, perform. He's played with John Mayer, Avril Lavigne, Johnny Lang, that's where I saw you most recently. Evan and Zane, which is one of your side projects. He's been on TV. He's been on late night shows. He's been on Broadway. What hasn't he done except the Melody League podcast, the Melody League sessions?
I love it. I'm so happy to be here too.
So Zane, welcome, man. I hope you're doing all right. Are you calling me from LA? Is that where you are?
I'm calling you from LA. Dude, what a great introduction. Dang, man. What the heck?
Dude, I like, you don't have to look very hard on your freaking Wikipedia page to be like impressed that you're such a fierce, savage player.
I feel very fortunate and very thankful that people like working with me. I'm learning from this quarantine that I'm much more of an introvert than I thought. I'm actually okay with the isolation. I don't prefer it, but I'm okay with it more than I thought I'd be. But I love collaborating with others, and jazz is my foundation. And so working with others, which is basically the spirit of jazz, connecting in the moment with others is my favorite thing. I just can't believe people who I've respected and wanted to work with have wanted to work with me. So I feel very lucky and thankful. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I was just giving a guitar lesson online before you called. I don't do too many of them, but because of the quarantine, it's like, all right, I'm down. Who wants to do a lesson? Let's do it. And so we've been doing them, and I have this fancy setup where I do this sort of thing, and I draw out notes, and I get really nerdy with people. Anyway, what I realized in this last lesson I just taught was that the Steve Martin approach to art is similar to my approach. People used to ask Steve Martin back in the day, what do you focus on? Like, which manager do you get? Or do you get an agent first? Or he's like, honestly, just focus on loving your craft, and it really all will unfold. If you really are curious and care about your craft, it'll just happen. And I actually agree with that. So I've been the biggest nerd of nerds, and thankfully that's turned into writing songs that people have listened to, and working with other people and hanging out with homies like you I love your playing, man. I love your tone and I love your approach. So it's very nice to hear all those nice words from you.
Man, we met. I don't know if this was the first time we met, but what I remember as one of our first meetings was in New York when you came to
Terminal
one of our
5.
shows. Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
So you came to one of our shows in New York. I heard you were coming. I was peeing my pants nervous because I'm like, oh man, Zane Carney's gonna be here.
Oh man, that's nice of you.
He's gonna realize that all we play is like G, C, and D pop songs with a few riffs and in between. You know?
Oh man, dude. No, because the thing is, I have like, some favorite guitar players, all of us do, and most people have Jimi Hendrix and all those guys, and I have them as well, but Johnny Greenwood is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and he's almost always doing triadic-y stuff, but there are these deep nuances of like, is he gonna, double the third or double the fifth? And you're like that, in my opinion. You're very compositional, and those are the people that I respect. I respect everyone equally, but there's a special place in my heart for musicians who are orchestrating, arranging, and compositional in their approach, and that's what I think is like your craziest strength. So I was at the concert going like, oh dude, like most people would play this version of that chord, but he played this one, and that helped the vocal, and he knows, and this is so exciting.
Yeah.
So I was enjoying it so much.
Man,
like Edge from U2 too. He's like, the first time I met Edge, which now I'm already going into my own name dropping, but I worked on that Broadway show, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, which Edge and Bono wrote. And the first time I ever met Edge, he came into a rehearsal space, and I'm just, reading the song, reading the music, and it's this weird song called DIY World that was like very, like weird parallel minor chords, very hard to read. And I was sight reading it, and his first words are, "You can read that?" I was like, "Oh, hi, Mr. or the Edge. Hey." He's like, "Cool, I don't read. That's cool." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So everyone has different skills. I'm like, "You don't read. You sound like you do the way you write." He's like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "Okay, I love your playing and your composition, and I love you."
Dang, dude. Yeah. And so, like, was that a song he had written? That one that you were playing?
So he and Bono written, it's something like, I don't know, I had my guitar from the lesson, so I wasn't planning on this, but like, tomorrow belongs to the great, not the straight, but the big, DIY world, DIY world. Something like that, yeah, I forget. I have the whole score over there, but it was like, weird minor chords. It's really weird. And so Bono just wrote the melody and was like, ugh. And then Edge was like, weird minor chords. And then an arranger, David Campbell, namely, just was like, here are the chords. And David was in the room, like, conducting us, John from Carney, Aiden from Carney, and me from Carney. And we were all just, like, trying to keep up with, like, every chord change being in a different key.
That's hilarious. What an experience. That
was actually our audition, too. They didn't want us. Bono and Edge wanted Carney in the show, but the rest of the team was unsure because we were a rock band. And they're like, they probably drink a bunch and do drugs. We're like, actually, we're not sober on purpose. We just don't do those things. So we're good. Like, well, you're probably going to be late and unprofessional. And honestly, you're rock musicians, which means you can't read music. And we were like, about that. We actually all study jazz, and that's our thing, so we can do it. So they held an audition for us in New York where they watched us like real scary, like the music supervisor and the music conductor and the orchestrator, and they just gave us the hardest stuff to read, and we read it. And they were like, all right, Bono and Edge want it. They can do it, so sure.
Dude, that's insane.
It was very stressful.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's the Edge, the Mr. Edge. And I heard Bono actually said something like, Zane, he's the best guitar player in New York City.
This has been, okay, so.
Is that a true quote?
I can tell you that story. I can tell you where that happened. And I said it tongue in cheek to, at the time, our manager, who was a guy named David Sonnenberg at DOS. He managed Carney. And I was, to clarify for people who were just hearing this, who is this random guy, I had a band with my brother called Carney, and I was the lead guitarist, and he was the songwriter, and we were kind of the Mick Jagger and Keith Richards of the band, And so I told my manager off the cuff, man, something crazy happened today at a rehearsal at the theater for Spider-Man. He's like, what? I'm like, Bono, we were just talking and about a piece for the end of the show, and he had brought the lead editor from Rolling Stone. And I was like, oh, hi, I think his name is, I should know his name, David something. He's like, this is my good friend, from Rolling Stone. He's the head of the editing department. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, man. He's like, this is Zane. He's the best guitarist in New York City. And I was like, oh, huh? He's like, oh, for sure. I'm like, oh, really? That's cool. So I was like, oh, that was nice today. My manager said, cool, it's going in your bio. I was like, it's not really on the record. He's like, Bono's cool. He loves you. He loves you and Reed. We're good. I'm like, okay. So now it's just been in my bio. And now even when I try to take it out, people have already seen the old one that it's like, okay. I feel kind of guilty about it because he would probably say it in a nice way on the record, but it was just a random moment. And it was very nice of him.
That's so good. I love that, the way that happened, because, I mean, you are the best guitar player in New York City.
And I don't live in New York, so that means I'm not good anymore. I live in
I met the Edge once at a movie premiere, actually twice. Once playing for, he was doing a show with Daniel Lanois.
Oh my gosh.
And he came out as a special guest. It was in LA. And I was like, holy crap, Edge is coming out to play with Daniel Lanois. This is a mind blown. And after the show, the second mind blown was a friend of ours was the day-to-day manager for Daniel Lanois. She's like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm watching the show. She's like, do you want to come out to the after party and hang out? And me and Noah were like, yeah, sure. We were just like flies on the wall, kind of like, we don't belong here. This is amazing.
Wow. You know? Dude, I actually also, man, we could make this all story time about our heroes, but if you have the time for it, I do have a quick Daniel Lanois story.
Tell it. I love that guy.
So I was at my friend's birthday party. She's like, yeah, some friends are coming. We're just in a jam, and we'd love to have you. It was at a place called The Springs, which is now closed in downtown LA. Such a great place. It was run by this wonderful family that, total side note, the guy who ran it is the music director of Hair the Musical that I'm playing Claude in. So I'm doing that too when quarantine ends. Total coincidence. But I go to the birthday party and I'm like, that's Daniel Lanois playing pedal steel right now at this party. And this is a friend of mine who's like 25. I'm like, what? I'm like, is that Daniel Lanois? Like, oh yeah, I invited a bunch of friends. Daniel, you know, I'm like, why didn't you tell me this was happening? So I walk over, I'm like, hey, Mr. Edge, Mr. Lanois. No, I'm kidding. I call everyone Mr. Lanois. Just like, man, Daniel, I just think you pretty much have gotten the pretty much the best sounding records of all time. I'm just such a fan. He's like, oh, you're Zane Carney. I've heard about you from Edge. I'm like, oh, what? You have? He's like, hey man, come by my place one time. I'm like, oh God.
That's sick.
Here's where the story gets good. So he's like, just come by the studio. So I come by the studio, just with my guitar. I don't know what we're doing. Is it to talk about my solo music? Is it just to hang? I don't know. So I walk in, I knock, and no one answers. I just open the door because it's been about 3 minutes, and I just see Daniel playing pedal steel. Not a word. He just goes. I walk over. Okay. And then the engineer goes, shh, just plug in. I'm like, oh, am I playing? He's like, plug in. Okay. So I just plug in. First 20 minutes of the saying, not one word, just he's playing. And he's just doing his weird sort of like, you know, he's into like the whole, like.
Right.
Like weird Lydian. He's just like all in his Lydian world-scape, and we're just shedding. And then we just ended finally after 20 minutes of just zoning out sort of like meditative music. And then he goes, you want a glass of water? I was like, what is happening? What is this life? This is so awesome. And then we just hung out and listened to like new records of his, and I don't know. Dude, you and I have had some wild lives where we've been so fortunate to meet people that we respect. You are someone I respect so tremendously for human reasons, for musical reasons, for composition reasons, for guitar tone reasons, for gear nerd reasons. So even the fact that we're friends is a big deal to me. So I really appreciate all the nice things you say, Drew.
Well, you belonged in those meetings and I snuck in. But I appreciate that. This show, I mean, Melody League, this whole thing we're doing here with this series through the Wedgwood Artist Relief Fund is just to support music, to support music. Music needs us. We need music during this time because of the whole shutdown, lockdown thing. Right. It's a weird time for everybody, right? So I was just going to ask you, like, were you on tour when the shutdown happened, or where were
That's
you?
That's a good question.
Found that out?
So I was in rehearsals for Hair the Musical at the LGBT Center in Los Angeles. They're putting on this production with a director and music conductor and all these people that are Broadway people, and they wanted to bring that quality to LA. So every 6 months they do a crazy show there. We were in rehearsals. We were 2 weeks from opening. My role in the show is I play Claude Hooper Bukowski in the show. He and Berger are sort of the two leads in the show. and Claude in this production of it is very focused. And so it's a lot of work. It's 9-10 songs and 6 or 7 feature songs. Almost all the dialogue in the show involves Claude. And so I was pumped. I was like, this is going to be a 90-minute rock show, and we're going to do it. And March 13th, we were in our third to final rehearsal before tech rehearsals, and then we got shut down. I think we're doing the show in September, October. I don't know. But I had really transitioned into embracing the acting side of my passions. For those who are just discovering me from this conversation, I was a child actor on a sitcom, on a CBS show called Dave's World. And so that was a big part of my life. And then I just got so into jazz guitar that it became music for 25 years, or 20 years. And so now I was like, I want to have a dual thing. So once the lockdown happened, I was like, okay, back into music. Let's do it, baby. This is my passion. This is more what I'd like to be doing. So let's do it.
Nice.
So now I'm finishing recordings and doing these live streams on my Twitch channel like 3 times a week. And the Melody League is going to happen
on that
concurrently. Yeah. So Friday night
cool.
At 6 p.m., I'll be doing a multicast. So it'll be YouTube, Facebook, maybe Instagram Live, and Twitch all at the same time. And I'm really excited.
Dude, I'm stoked on that, man.
Yeah.
So like what you need to do to see it is follow Zane Carney on Twitch, Instagram, Twitter. Just follow all of his socials. You'll get the information. You're so good at putting out info. Like your email list is killer as well.
Thanks, man.
I love how you're always stream of consciousness typing your descriptions and your emails. They're full of little tangents and so interesting to read.
Thanks. That's a really nice way of saying it.
I love them, dude. It's
Thanks,
got so
man.
much freaking personality.
Thanks, man.
And you're not afraid to just be who you are. I hadn't actually watched that Dave's World show, and I looked up a couple clips before this interview, and I was like, oh, that's what Zane did. Okay,
So crazy.
I didn't know.
I was really planning on just being an actor. My brother, Reeve Carney, who's like, I'm saying his last name so people know him, he's just one of the best singers and songwriters of this time. It's just, to me, that's pretty undeniable. And when he was 12, we all knew he was going to be that guy. I remember him coming home from watching the movie Forrest Gump I don't know how old he was, 7 or 9, one of those ages. And he just by ear figured out Alan Silvestri's score perfectly. It's like, all right, got it. You're a musician, musical genius. So he asked me when I was young, you're going to be a musician, right? I said, I don't know. I might be an actor or like a baseball player. It's like, well, you better figure it out soon. To which my response was, I'm 10. Can I just... God, not everyone figures it out so young. Dang.
I know, right?
So I really thought I'd be an actor. I did a film with Billy Crystal called My Giant. I did a bunch of guest starring spots on Nickelodeon shows and HBO shows, and I started getting direct offers for independent films or like Barney straight to DVD movies, and it was like, I don't think I want to do that. So I got into guitar instead, and then the acting stuff is just, it's something I'm really passionate about, and it finds its way into my songwriting. So yeah, I don't know. I love both so much, but there's something really special about, as you know, about making music where I don't have to wait for someone to write lines for me. I can write my own words, especially with guitar. If you just say, hey, we're in the key of C sharp minor, go, I can just go. Yeah. It's not like, hey, be sad. Oh, okay, monologue, sad monologue.
Yeah. There's a lot of freedom, and you've got all the kind of savant headspace to like go wherever you want in music. I remember, I think the last time I saw you play live was with Johnny Lang here in San Diego.
That's right. That was our second to last gig. We had to cancel the rest of the tour for other reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, man, that was fun. Nice.
Yeah, and you took a solo in the middle, or you did a song by yourself, I think with just the drummer.
Right.
And but then you just start going all over the place. It's just, it's incredible to watch, dude.
That's nice of you, man. I know that I can be not everyone's cup of tea conversationally, because I can be verbose and go on tangents, with English language words. But musically, it's fun when there's a structure for me, because it helps focus me. So it's like, you have 64 bars, do something in that. Like, okay. Because if you gave me, infinite time, sorry.
But now you have your own Twitch channel and you have infinite time, so you can do whatever you want.
It is. I will say what's really been fun about the Twitch thing. It's not everyone knows about Twitch. I only knew about it because I'm really into video games and it's a gaming platform mostly. But they're really emerging as kind of the go-to music channel just because their upload quality audio and video is so stellar. So yeah, I hopped on there not knowing what to expect, and what's been really special about these shows and will be really special about this show on Friday, this upcoming Friday. I forget what date that is, May 22nd, I think.
Yeah.
So what'll be fun about that is my guitar interludes and moments in a live audience where I'm opening for Johnny Lang and people are talking, clanging drinks. I kind of try to get over my interludes really quickly, but most people when they watch online are willing to kind of sit back and just take it in. And so I can create like a 4-minute film score moment of a transition from keys between songs, and it gets really interwoven and sort of Danny Elfman, Dario Marianelli-esque. And I value that part of what I'm exploring, and it's going to find its way into my recordings. I was actually talking to my friend the other day. He's an artist named Thundercat, but I know him as Steven. We grew up together. And he's just an incredibly encouraging, lovely person. I'd love to connect you to.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
He's just wonderful. And he just called me out of the blue just basically to be encouraging. And I remembered like when we used to hang out as kids, when we were 12, 13, he was just the jazz giant that he is, just crazy bass player. And then he evolved into this really wonderful songwriter and amazing singer and incredible producer and all this stuff. And his records have interludes. They have like 3-minute interludes. No singing. Space. I'm like, dude, I think things are lining up. Like the Twitch is reminding me that that's part of my soul. He's encouraging me. It's okay to be who I am. I am half jazz, half mainstream. I am half singer-songwriter, half improvisational weirdo. That's okay. So.
Yep. Yeah, dude. People ask us sometimes, you probably get this question in interviews, like, what would you tell another musician, or what would you tell a younger musician who like wanted advice from you? And I always say, like, be yourself, be who you are, learn from other players, but don't be afraid to just play less or more depending on what you like to hear, because there's only one of your voice. Like, God only made one of Zane, and me, so it's like, just do you, do your voice. That's what the world needs, and I hope that this show, like this Melody League, model that we've created, we want to support music. We want to make
so awesome
art happen in all forms, in music and bands. Last week we had the New Respects on. Their 2 twin sisters playing bass and guitar, and then their brother playing drums and their cousin singing. It's insane. It's like kind of like Carney, but different vibes. Because I don't know if people know that, but your brother Reeve and then your Paris
sister,
was in there too, right?
Yeah, she was in the revolving band before we shifted temporarily to Carney, and that was for a few different reasons that were really, in hindsight, not the best reasons to change the band. It was influence from the labels and all that.
Okay.
Label management influence and producer influence. So we actually ended up getting the revolving band back together, and we made a DVD that we're going to get edited now during the quarantine and maybe release that. Paris is just one of the most talented. Her voice is so stupid. That's my sister, Paris.
Yeah, follow her too.
Man, so
you guys watching.
Oh, family band. I'm into. I need to watch the New Respects one because we're into family band stuff.
It's a special thing, man. I'm in a band with brothers, and it's a certain connection that's there, and it's added a stability to us anyway, where it's like, well, whether or not this album does good, they're still getting together for Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, and they're still the uncle of each other's kids. So it's like, they've got this long-standing, past the band kind of vibe going that adds a stability, to everything that we do as a group, which is really cool.
So awesome.
I keep thinking about the phrase, this is where we find ourselves. There's maybe a song in there somewhere, but like, this is where we find ourselves. Not only are we just, here's where we are, but like, this is where we find out who we are. Like, this is where we find ourselves.
Right.
You and I have talked a little bit about different mental health stuff just because of Lyme disease, and my wife has Lyme disease. And, one time I came to your show, we talked about it a lot and stuff, but you said this year you're feeling better than ever. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
in 2015, I went to a doctor. I had fatigue that was really bad, and they said you either have generalized anxiety disorder or Lyme disease, because the test showed that you could have Lyme. So why don't you go down that route and see what happens? And thus began about a 5-year journey of confusion and devastation. And another reason I feel like I've been preparing for this quarantine my whole life, is those 5 years I learned how to make a living from home without having the energy to go on tour. I turned down tours, I turned down work to figure out why I was so tired, and then I started pushing through. But eventually I befriended Avril Lavigne. That's how I started working with her. She also is a Lyme advocate, someone who has dealt with that. Long story short, it's been this weird mystery where I have never quite solved if it was Lyme or not. Because every neurological visit was, your neurology's great. Every MRI was, your brain looks healthy, there are no lesions, it's not MS. I'm like, okay, well, is it this, is it that? And then things changed in September of last year. So right before I saw you in December at the Johnny Lang show, I said, you know what, maybe music isn't for me anymore. Maybe I just can't afford a tour anymore. Maybe my body can't handle it. What if I go into acting, where instead of writing all the material and producing it and funding it, what if I'm just like the actor? Maybe that's less work. Maybe my body can handle that. It led to this weird, beautiful solution for me, which was, all right, well, if I'm going to act, I want to be physically fit, because a lot of times my agents would send me out on leading man type roles. And I'm thinking, really? Okay, fine. So I want to be a little bit more built. And so out of pure vanity, this is like that God thing in the Bible of God can use wherever you bring. I forget the exact quote, but it's like, God can work with that. So I came in with I'm vain and I want to look ripped. And it turned out to oh, my blood flow was not good. So to help my blood flow, I was drinking water and discovered that I was potentially chronically dehydrated. So I started doing packets of these hydrant thingies, and oh, now I'm getting enough water and I have more energy than I've had in 5 years. This is really? Was I just not taking care of myself? Now, I asked that question rhetorically. My family and friends go, you never take care of yourself. You're playing video games and you don't eat all day and you don't eat enough and you don't drink enough and you don't drink alcohol. You're not treating your body badly, but you're not nourishing it. And then you stress out and you're anxious and you try to control everything. I'm okay. That's a very honest response. There's less honest, please. God dang it. So, it just became clear, I have to learn how to take care of myself better. So for me, that's been part of the solution. And I put on about 15 pounds of muscle in 6 months and was drinking a lot of water and doing all this stuff. So far I've been okay. And we'll see how that goes. Now, Hair the musical, I'm the lead role. I'm doing most of the songs, singing top of my lungs. And I didn't have one pass out moment during rehearsals, not even close. Whereas with Johnny Lang, pass out moments were when I would be opening for Johnny and I'd sing a high note, I'd do one of these. Oh, where do you go when you lose control? And I'd hold that note for ever. And right now I could hold it forever and no pass out. For some reason, when I'd sing those notes with Johnny, I'd be I'd have to finish the note. I'd go, it's the big moment of my song. That's the triumphant moment of the song. And I'd just go, where do you go when you lose control? 'Cause I love you. I wouldn't be flat like I was just there, but or I would be flat because I'd be about to pass out.
Yeah, okay,
so
gotcha.
Those don't happen anymore for me, which is a miracle.
Oh.
I almost collapsed on stage a bunch of times, and I would say to people, I'd be finish the song and be okay, I'm going to do some guitar music. And they'd go, yay! And I go, okay, fine. And I just do some guitar thing for 5 minutes to get my breath back. Wow, so those things stopped happening. I don't know how. I'm thank the Lord. 5 years of trying, and was it water? Whatever, great.
Yeah.
So,
Stoked you're feeling better.
My heart goes out to your wife, and I know that journey. Avril and I, we've talked about it. She continues to do advocating for Lyme disease, and she just had a song come out during the quarantine about the frontline workers who are warriors, and she wrote the song initially about health warriors like herself. So it's crazy, but one thing I'm thankful about is if I were still to have issues with that, this quarantine allows me to work from home. Now, that being said, my girlfriend's incredibly wise. She's from New York City. We're bi-coastal, but she's out here with me. And we're talking about just the like you say, mental health. What am I able to process mental health-wise based on my social not structure, based on where I am societally. And that's a big conversation that's going to start happening, already has been happening, which is, okay, so people like me, I'm able to sit here and I'm an artist, right? And I'm thinking about it, and I that's my process. But some people are like, I have to go to work. Like I can't afford like 1 week without money.
Right.
And that's another part of mental health that I think is really crucial. Where it's like, if I can go to an analogy, in a family, if I'm being abused or traumatized by a family member, it's going to be harder for me than if I'm in a really healthy family and I want to just talk about the feelings. Like, both sets of people have equally valid feelings. One has a harder time expressing them and getting to them because there's so much other junk in the way. And so my heart goes out, especially right now, to people who crave and hunger to talk about these emotional traumas from this quarantine, but they're so in shock fiscally that they don't have time for it. And that is my heart goes out to them, and I want to create art that they can maybe put on in the background, and it can soothe them while they're doing 12 hours of work just to get by. Whereas I can sit here and write songs. So it's a really challenging time for the world, and I'm very heartbroken for a lot of different sets of people.
Yeah, dude, music gives people's emotions a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it expresses for them. Like, right. You know, music, we need it because it's like that song that you put on and you're able to like feel what you need to feel to get through the day. And so we need artists that can do that, you know, and you're one of the people that does that. And man, I can't be more thrilled to catch up with you and just like hear that you're doing well. And also just like you're doing the hard work, which is something that a lot of artists that we, you know, both know kind of ignore maybe, or mask over with music or touring or drugs or whatever, where it's like, oh, I'm not thinking about those things. But you've done like the internal work of, you know, growing as a person. What
this quarantine's teaching me is I need to stop isolating. Like, when the world opens back up, I'm lucky to be like, let's just record a song, let's write a song.
I know.
What I tend to do is
that way too.
You know,
I'm changing in that way too because of this isolation thing. It's like when the world opens back up, I'm just gonna not hold on to things so tightly. Just it's music. Let's just do more of these. Like, we could video call any day of the week and talk about gear.
I love talking to you, man. You're like a master. You remind me of, I don't know, like a sage teacher or something. You're so wise and so open-hearted and vulnerable, but also strong. And yeah, man, you're just an inspiration to a lot of us in ways even outside of music. So thank you for having me and wanting to talk to me, and by partnering with, helping me like connect with Wedgwood so that we can get more people donating money to this artist fund. Yep. So I'm really excited about this Friday of doing new songs and unveiling new gear and all this stuff on this show, and then being like, guys, donate to this fund. This is going to help people get through right now. Most artists are actually in that community I referred to earlier, which is people who are having a really hard time financially. So I'm just grateful that you opened the door to help me connect with everyone over there, and we're going to raise some money, dude. We're going to do it.
We're going to raise some funds, and that's all
really
we want to do. People want to support music. This is just a funnel to get music funded and supported, and it's worthy. It's important. Music needs us. We need music. Yeah. It's a great thing. It's a great model. So
may I even say one quick thing? I know you have to go, but there's that book by Simon Wiesenthal called The Sunflower. I believe that's Simon Wiesenthal. Yeah, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. So in that book, he discusses how he was in a Holocaust internment camp when he was a child. And he discussed that it started off that they were teaching sciences and maths and Hebrew and all those things. And then they stopped teaching languages. They kept teaching history. And then they stopped teaching history. The only thing they didn't stop teaching in the schools at that time was art. So it was poetry, it was songwriting, that was the only thing they kept because they realized that was fundamental to human survival, which is mind-blowing to think about. So this idea of someone down the street who has not been as crazy psychotically lucky as me to work with some of the artists I work with, they're just as genius, more talented. They have a song to share with us that may unlock our feelings and help us resonate and feel heard. It might encourage us to act and move and fix some of these problems. That artist is just barely getting by and needs help, and so do I. All of us need help. Yeah. Everyone's living at different levels of what they can afford. So, but I think it's really important to speak to those people. And I'll say this during my stream on Friday at 6 p.m. Like, this is going to go to people who are part of that community you hear about on TV. You know, oh, the people who don't make enough. This is artists most times. And they're going to help us do this thing that, according to Simon Wiesenthal, is crucial to human survival, which is giving us their heart, giving us art that can help heal us. So I'm really grateful to be a part of this, Drew. It's really special.
Well said, Zane. Man, well said. Well, thanks for being on Melody League Sessions.
Yeah, man.
Everybody's going to follow Zane Carney right now. And thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, Zane.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Drew.
All right, man. Bye.